Welcome back, chess fans. Today we are diving deep into an absolute masterclass of positional defense and endgame technique. We've got Grandmaster Mukhiddin Madaminov of Uzbekistan playing white against none other than American superstar Fabiano Caruana playing black. This match features the Madaminov Rossolimo Attack in the Sicilian defense. We are going move by move through all 40 moves to show you how a minor inaccuracy turned a tight battle into a textbook draw. Let's jump right to the board. Part 1. Opening moves, moves 1 to 8. Move 1. White moves pawn to e4. Black answers with pawn to c5. Analysis. White opens by controlling the center, and Caruana enters his preferred weapon, the Sicilian defense. Move 2. White moves knight to f3. Black plays knight to c6. Analysis. Developing pieces smoothly toward the central squares. Move 3. White plays bishop to b5. Black plays pawn to e6. Analysis. The Rossolimo Attack. White sidesteps deep mainline Sicilian theory, aiming to pressure the c6 knight. Caruana solidifies his center with e6. Move 4. White castles 0-0. Black plays knight to e7. Analysis. White secures the king early. Caruana develops his second knight to e7 so he can recapture on c6 with a knight if white takes. Move 5. White plays rook to e1. Black moves knight to g6. Analysis. White reinforces the e4, pawn down the open e-file. Caruana reroutes his knight to g6 to free up his dark-squared bishop. Move 6. White plays pawn to c3. Black moves bishop to e7. Analysis. White prepares a full central break with d4. Caruana finishes developing his kingside pieces, preparing to castle. Move 7. White strikes with pawn to d4. Black takes. Pawn takes pawn on d4, cxd4. Analysis. The battle for central territory officially kicks off. Move 8. White plays pawn takes pawn on d4, cxd4. Black plays pawn to d5. Analysis. White reestablishes a strong pawn-pawn center. Caruana immediately strikes back in the middle to deny white total control. Part 2. Middle game tension, moves 9 to 16. Move 9. White plays knight to c3. Black castles, low. Analysis. White develops his remaining knight, putting pressure on d5. Caruana safely tucks his king away on the king side. Move 10. White plays pawn to h3. Black takes. Pawn takes pawn on e4, dex4. Analysis. White creates a breathing square, prophylaxis, for his king while controlling g4. Caruana liquidates the central pawns. Move 11. White plays knight takes pawn on e4, next 4. Black plays knight to b4. Analysis. White recaptures with a central knight. Caruana launches a tactical jump, probing white's light-squared bishop. Move 12. White plays bishop to d2. Black plays bishop to d7. Analysis. Both players develop their light-squared bishops to defend key central squares. Move 13. White plays bishop takes bishop on d7, bxd7. Black plays queen takes bishop on d7, qxd7. Analysis. Minor pieces trade off, opening up lines for active piece play. Move 14. White plays queen to b3. Black plays queen to d5. Analysis. Madaminov targets the b4, knight, and b7 pawn. Caruana's centralization is key, offering a trade of queens on his terms. Move 15. White plays rook to e3. Black plays knight to c6. Analysis. White guards the third rank and prepares to double rooks. Caruana retreats the knight back to an ideal central square. Move 16. White plays queen takes queen on d5, qxd5. Black plays pawn takes queen on d5, exd5. Analysis. Queens leave the board. Caruana accepts an isolated d-pawn, but gains active piece activity in return. Part 3. Tactical traits, moves 17 to 24. Move 17. White plays knight to g3. Black plays knight to h4. Analysis. White maneuvers his knight toward f5. Caruana counters instantly, targeting white's f3 knight. Move 18. White plays rook to d1. Black plays knight takes knight on f3 check. Knight takes f3 check. Analysis. White defends the d-pawn. Caruana simplifies the position by removing white's active knight. Move 19. White plays rook takes knight on f3. Black plays rook from f to d8. Analysis. White recaptures with the rook. Caruana places double control over his isolated d5 pawn. Move 20. White plays knight to f5. Black plays bishop to f8. Analysis. A strong outpost for White's knight. Caruana patiently drops his bishop back to preserve the piece. Move 21. White plays pawn to g4. Black plays rook to d7. Analysis. White expands aggressive momentum on the kingside. Caruana doubles up on the d-file, defending solidly. Move 22. White plays rook to e1. Black plays pawn to f6. Analysis. The critical moment. White's 1 rupee was a subtle inaccuracy. The computer preferred rd3 to lock down the d-pawn. Caruana immediately chips away at White's central control with f6. Move 23. White plays pawn to h4. Black plays king to f7. Analysis. White marches pawns up the board. Caruana brings his king into action, essential for the upcoming endgame. Move 24. White plays pawn to g5. Black plays king to g8. Analysis. White tries to rip open Black's king's safety, but Caruana steps back onto a secure square. Part 4. The pawn breakthrough. Moves 25 to 32. Move 25. White plays pawn takes pawn on f6, gx-f6. Black plays pawn to g6. Analysis. White creates a passed pawn, but Caruana undermines White's advanced knight. Move 26. White plays knight to e7+. Black plays bishop takes knight on e7. Analysis. White forces the knight deep into Black's camp with a check. Caruana eliminates it immediately. Move 27. White plays pawn takes bishop on e7. Black plays rook, takes pawn on e7. Analysis. The dangerous e-pawn is captured. Material remains dead equal. Move 28. White plays rook takes rook on e7. Black plays knight takes rook on e7. Analysis. Rooks are traded off, leaving a single rook and minor pieces on the board. Move 29. White plays pawn to h5. Black plays knight to c6. Analysis. White pushes his last kingside pawn asset. Caruana repositions his knight back to the core center. Move 30. White plays pawn takes pawn on g6. Black plays pawn takes pawn on g6. Analysis. The kingside pawns trade down, clearing out all remaining cover. Move 31. White plays rook to c3. Black plays rook to e8. Analysis. White attacks c7. Caruana seizes the fully open e-file. Move 32. White plays rook to c5. Black plays knight, takes pawn on d4. Analysis. White pressures Black's weak pawns. Caruana uses a quick tactical fork to grab White's d4 pawn. Part 5. The climax and draw. Moves 33 to 40. Move 33. White plays rook takes pawn on d5. Black plays knight to f3+. Analysis. White captures back. Caruana delivers a check, forcing White's king to move. Move 34. White plays king to g2. Black plays knight, takes knight on d2. Analysis. White's king steps up. Caruana grabs the bishop, liquidating all remaining minor pieces. Move 35. White plays rook takes knight on d2. Black plays rook to e7. Analysis. A pure rook endgame is reached, the classic drawing margin. Move 36. White plays king to g3. Black plays king to f7. Analysis. Both grandmasters activate their kings toward the center. Move 37. White plays king to g4. Black plays rook to e4+. Analysis. White tries to push forward, but Caruana cuts the king off with a check. Move 38. White plays pawn to f4. Black plays rook to b4. Analysis. White protects against the check. Caruana attacks White's b2 pawn, keeping White on defense. Move 39. White plays pawn to b3. Black plays pawn to a5. Analysis. White solidifies his queenside pawns. Caruana threatens to pry open the a-file with a4. Move 40. White plays rook to d5. Black plays pawn to a4. Analysis. White targets the a-pawn, but Caruana pushes it anyway. With no pawns left to force a win, both players agreed to a draw, 1/2, right here. Outro. What an awesome game. Madaminov played a very sharp game against one of the highest-rated players in world history, showing deep preparation in the Rossolimo Caruana showed us why he's a world-class grandmaster, staying cool under pressure, liquidating into a completely equal rook endgame, and locking up the draw effortlessly. If you enjoyed this move-by-move breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more Grandmaster chess content, and drop a comment on what game you want us to cover next. See you in the next analysis.